Hey, welcome back everybody. So for those of you who don't know, I spend probably around 50 days out, duck hunting, goose hunting. For those of you who do a lot of the waterfowl hunting, you know it's miserable out there. It's gross a lot of the times, not every time, but especially in Western Washington, especially this year, it's been really bad. So I thought, it's time to clean the gun again. I've got a lot of rounds through it. It's been out there just in the swamp, in the muck and the mud, rain, freezing temperatures, sunshine too, but we're going to clean this thing up. So what I've got here, this is my go-to. This is a Benelli M2. I've had this shotgun now for a couple of years. It is an absolute workhorse. I love this. It fits me. It's comfortable. Benelli M2. This, I don't know. For me, it's right for me. So it's about time to give it a good cleaning again, especially after this morning. It was just dumping on us out there, and I got water all through this thing. Plus, it's got a lot of dirt in it just from the outdoors. So let's spin this camera around, and I'll show you how I do a real deep cleaning on these, and that'll get me through the end of the season. Ends here in about a month, and then we'll give it another good cleaning after that. So let's get going. So first things first, make sure everything's clear. Chamber's open here, bolts back, gun's empty. So we're safe. Okay, so first thing I like to do is just get the strap off. Get this thing out of your way. There's already a little bit of rust building up around here. It's not terrible, but like I said, I hunt for hours and hours every day, probably 50 days a year. Take the front one off. Alright, take your sling. If you have a sling, set that off to the side for now. Next, we'll take the fore end off of here. Obviously your shotgun might be a little different than mine. And then I'm just going to let this bolt slowly come forward here. And that slides out of here like so. So I'll just set this back over here. Yeah, there's a lot of water in this thing. That's alright. Now I'm just going to pop off the shot cam here real quick. I'll have to realign it. That's really simple to do though once it's all done, so set that off to the side. Next, I want to take the choke out. So I've been running the Pattern Master. This is the Anaconda long range. It's been working great. So take my choke tool here. Spin that out of there. Oh, I gotta get a close-up picture of this. This thing's full of water. Just completely full of water. And this is why it's so important to clean up your guns when you've been out in the field, because water gets into crazy places. You wouldn't think it would get in there, but it does. I'll just give this a quick wipe off here real quick. It's had some rounds down it since I cleaned it last. Just been so busy hunting. In here, this is just filthy. Just absolutely filthy down inside here. It's alright. It'll clean right up. Next, get this apart. Got to pull your charge handle out. And then the bolt will just slide right out of there. At least on the Benelli it will. And this thing's just swimming in water. Okay, let's take the trigger assembly out. So on this one, I've got a pin right here. I just need to push that pin out. There's your pin, and then there's your trigger assembly. In the recoil system that's down inside the stock here, there's a lot of water right here. I'm going to go ahead and really go to town on this one here. I'm going to pull the buttstock off of this thing too. Now on a Benelli, you can adjust these for a right-handed or a left-handed shooter with their shims in here. Those just help kind of fine-tune how a gun fits you. So when you take this apart, you just want to make sure that you get this, you keep everything the way it's supposed to go back together. So I'll start by popping this pad off of here. They're a little stubborn, but not too bad. Sure enough, sopping wet in there too. And then down inside here, you've got a nut right there. So I'm going to take just a ratchet here. This is a 1/2 inch, 13 millimeter. Either one's fine. Just go in there and then just pop that loose. Okay, so down inside here, there's a plate. Kind of hard to see in the camera, but there's a plate right there, and it says BSX, and that is on the top side. So when you pull this out, you just want to make sure that BSX is facing up. The hole is off center, and that's what helps adjust for right-handed, left-handed shooters. You can flip these in different directions, and that changes the position of the stock. Set that over there. Now I've got the shims right here. These can go on. You can stack these up in different ways, but I'm gonna take this one here, and it's got SX facing the butt stock of the gun. So I know this goes here, so SX. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take some air and blow this out a little bit, dry it up. Right here is this is where a lot of the recoil is absorbed in the Benelli here. We need to take this apart. And there's a hole right here, and that's going to stop things. You're going to be able to catch the spring. There's a big long spring in here. You'll be able to catch that. So we just need to pop this thing loose, and then you can just take a pick or something, push it in there, and it stops it from flying all over the place. So I'm just going to get this thing started here with just a crescent wrench. Now, if you hang on to this piece that you're unscrewing here really tight, you don't need to use the pick. But you do need to make sure you got a good grip on this thing, otherwise it's going to come shooting out. Take that out of there. Take that out of there. Okay, so what I like to do is, and for the most part, I'm just going to use this, just this little kit here that Otis offers. I'm not going to get into the CLP here. I am going to we're going to start off by using the MC7 bore cleaner. I've got the barrel in a soft jaw vise right now just to make it easier. So I'm going to take my cable, take my little adapter here, screw that onto the end of the cable, and then I've got just this mop here I use. All I use this for is just for soaking down the bore. So put this on here. Well, now I'm really making a mess. And let's take that down the barrel. So I always go breech to muzzle and just pull that through. And then pull that through again. I'm going to put just a little bit more on here. Pull that through again. Then I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes while I work on the rest of the stuff. So I'm just take the trigger group here, steal one of your wife's Tupperwares, the ones that she doesn't care so much about. I'm just going to spray this down with some quick scrub. I like to come in here with one of the little brushes and just, if I see anything left over, which there's pretty much not, pretty clean just the way it is actually, just like that. But I just like to just knock down those spots real quick. Go ahead and release the trigger because there's garbage up underneath here. Okay, I'm going to walk over to my air compressor and just blow this out here real quick. Okay, that's blown out, nice and dry. Then I like to just go through and start spraying stuff down, wiping it down. Really want to just get this as clean as I can. And as I clean the stuff, you just start moving it over. Okay, the bolt, there's a pin right there that holds in the firing pin, so we're going to put our thumb over that. We're going to pull that pin out, let the firing pin come out. Then you've got this pin right here. Sometimes you can get it to just pop out in your hand. Oh, yeah, there it goes. There's a hole through this pin, and that hole needs to be lined up so that the firing pin, when we reassemble, and there's even a mark on that thing, a mark on the front edge, that's got to go forward. And you take your firing pin and spring out. Be careful not to kink the springs, but there's definitely some dirt in there. The bolt head will just come right out. I want to clean down through here. You get all kinds of garbage stuck in there. Hit any spots where you see any kind of dirt at all. And you really want to use a lint-free shop rag too. Don't use anything that's going to leave a bunch of lint behind. Okay, that's nice and clean. Get your bolt head spring in here. Blow the housing out really good. You're going to want to blow this out with some air too. So if you don't have an air compressor, you can get a can of compressed air or whatever. Run the channels in here real quick just to make sure. This stuff works. This quick scrub, it actually works really, really good. I've been very impressed with it. Yeah, there's not much left to come off of here, so let me go blow this out real quick. Wipe down my charge handle. Wipe down my adjustment plate here, just to make sure there's no garbage on it. I'm going to go blow this out. There's still water here. Now I need to clean this out. I need to blow all this out in here, right on down the tube here. You just really want to get in here and make sure that you get into every little nook and cranny that you possibly can. Take your brush. Run those channels. That looks pretty good there. That's a good idea to clean out this tube too. You'd be surprised at how much garbage gets in there. For this particular model, you'll need some snap ring pliers. So you just put your thumb over the top here. Now out comes your spring with your plug. You want to make sure that we clean this up too. And let's take a look. Whoops. Take a look down there. See what we can see. That comes out. This actually isn't very dirty in here. It's actually pretty clean, but I'm going to go ahead and clean it up anyways, just because. One thing you can do is just use your little mop here that we use for the barrel, and just pull this through there too. It's a little bit bigger diameter than the bore of the barrel, but nonetheless, you can actually just run this back and forth through there. Oh yeah, nice and clean. We'll put some lube in there too. Of course, we want to lube the spring and everything else. So take our plug off the spring. There's some gunk in the follower here, so we'll clean that out. There we go. Nice and clean. You can take the spring and just kind of sit it down here in the bottom, swish it around. That's going to get all the old oil off of there and stuff. Take your other spring here. Same thing. This stuff evaporates and dries pretty quick too, so this spring is already totally dry. And that's about it. Everything's been wiped down. Let's get back to the barrel. If you don't have a thread chaser for your choke for the barrel, I do recommend getting one. Benelli comes with them. I just like to chase that real quick, and you'll see you're going to get garbage out of there. It's pretty nasty. So I went ahead and just put the 12 gauge brush on here now. I'm going to pull that through. The Otis kits come with these little handles. All you do is just slip them in there, and then you just slip right off. So as you're pulling it back and forth, it's pretty easy. I have found, though, that most of the time you can just pull it with the cable. It's fine. So I'm going to pull this through about 15 times. Okay, now I'm going to take my brush off, put the mop back on, pull the mop back through a couple more times. And that's just going to help remove a bunch of that garbage that that's getting scratched away from the inside of the barrel. That's just going to remove, you know, a bunch of that garbage, fouling and stuff inside there. Put this on, run that through a couple more times. Okay, that's done. Well, sort of. Now we'll get into the kit here, take our patches out. So what you're going to need is this piece here and this piece here for the 12 gauge. It does say it on here, 12 gauge. So we're going to put this on the end of our cable. We're going to take one patch. These patches have a bunch of slits in them. So you find a little slit and you push this adapter through this slit, take the rubber piece, push that down over, pinch it here, feed that through, you create a little skirt. Now I'm going to put some MC10 on here, just around that little rubber piece. That'll help pick up any garbage. Let's pull this through and see what it looks like. I don't expect this to come out real dirty because we did run the mop through it again, but let's see. Oh, yeah, that's pretty dirty. Now, here's the nice thing about Otis and their patches. Open it up, spin it, grab another little slit. These have 6 slits per patch. Push that through, make another skirt out of it. Now this is pretty soaked still with the MC7, so we're good there. That is still filthy. Just filthy. So I'm just going to keep moving this patch around. Now I'm going to take a fresh patch. Let's see what this looks like coming out. I'm not going to put anything on it this time. I'm just curious to see what comes out. Better, but not great. So I'm just going to keep doing this until it comes out pretty darn clean. Okay, so I burned through a few patches here, but it's coming out pretty clean now. So now I'm going to take some of the rust prevent and just give that just a little shot on there and pull this through. And I'll pull that through probably twice. And that's just making sure that we got some good lubrication in the barrel that's going to help us out there in the duck field. I'm also just going to added a little bit more of that rust prevent here. And I'm just going to run this through the feed tube just to make sure that that's well coated. I'm going to spray a little bit of rust prevent down the back of the recoil section here. Pretty well coated there. I'm going to take my recoil spring and I'm going to put a little of the CLP on the spring here. I'm just going to run that down. And if you don't like greasy hands, put some gloves on. Okay, that's got some good lube on there now. I can see it's fully covered with some CLP. So and then I'll take just a little bit of the rust prevent here, and I'll just coat it. Just a couple shots is all you need, just to make sure. Then I want to get this here coated with some CLP. Slide that in there. Slide the spring back in there. This isn't the easiest thing to do, My hands are pretty oily, but just make sure I get a little oil on that. This is where, if you want, you can use the pick through the hole right here to hold the spring. But this is fine for me, so this doesn't have to be crazy tight, just nice and snug. And then I want to make sure that the threads are well coated. My hands are oily, so I'm also making sure that the outside of this is nice and coated in oil too. Doesn't have to be swimming in it, just a nice coating. I've got my release right here. I want to make sure that I get some oil in here on the spring and the hinge. And I also want to drip some of this into the channels inside where the bolt rides. So we'll get some in that side, a few drops on that side. I just take my fingers and work that around in there. If you need to, you can put a little oil on a rag too and just wipe it in there with a rag, whatever works for you. Just make sure that you're getting all the spots. I want to take this, make sure I've got the BSX facing up. Drop that into place. If you've got long enough fingers, you can hold it there. Put my shims on there. Okay, that's there. That's lined up inside there. Drop my washer on. Get that nut started in there. That's a nylock nut too, so you won't be able to screw it on all the way with your fingers. And then grab your ratchet. Snug that down. Okay, that's back together. We blew this off. That's nice and clean, so we can slide the butt pad back in there, like so. That's done. Now we can put our spring and follower back in here. So I'm going to put just a tiny drop of CLP on the follower. Then, same thing here with our spring and follower. We're going to put some lube on this, work that around, and just a couple of shots of some rust prevent. Don't forget to put your plug back in. Then carefully, without kinking the spring, get that back in there with your snap ring assembly. Just like so. Now before we go any further, I always just double check. Yep, follower's working good. Now because I have oil on my hands, I like to just wipe a little bit of that oil on your tube here. Or you can put some on a rag and do whatever. I'm going to put a drop of oil down the bolt assembly here. A little bit on the outside, especially in the wear areas, which should be pretty obvious at this point if you've had many rounds down your gun at all. This gun's got several thousand rounds down it. Again, I don't like it swimming in oil. I just want to make sure it's well coated. We'll take our bolt head spring here. Drop that in. I like to put a little bit of oil with the extractor because there's a spring inside there. So just a drop in there. Also make sure that that's got plenty of oil on the outside of it. Here's the orientation. So that drops in like so. Here's the pin. and there's a little mark on the top of the head of this pin, and that faces forward. Just clock that like so, push it down in there. Oop, I got it off just a little bit. Make sure you get some CLP on the firing pin and spring here too. I don't like to get too much oil on the firing pin. On those real cold days, you don't want a sluggish firing pin, so just a word of caution there. Been there, done that before. And this should feed right up through this pin here, which it did. Then we'll take our firing pin retainer, slide that in like so, push it in flush, and there you go. That's back together. Now before I put the bolt in, let's grab the trigger assembly. And I want CLP in every moving part, every pin, every hinge, you name it. I want a dab of oil on your springs. I want it everywhere in here. Not a lot, just a little bit. That feels great. And I do like to take a little bit of the rust prevent and just give this a couple of shots. So it's not swimming in oil, but it's, you know, it's well lubed. Hammer back, depress that, and this is going to just slide up in here and set back like so. Then you'll have to line up your pin, which looks pretty good right there. Again, my hands are still pretty oily, so coat that pin there, push it in, done. Now, we'll take our bolt, slide our bolt in here. You got to make sure it lines up with the recoil back in the stock here. There it goes right there. Now, take your charge handle, put that back in there. We're good to go there. Let's grab the barrel real quick. And there's still some dirt right up in here, some carbon and stuff build up. So I'm just going to wipe this out. Use a brush if you need to, which I do. Just in a couple small little spots. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Need some lube on this pin right here. So I'm just going to put a drop right there and then work that in just a little bit, just kind of taking my thumb and just depressing this. Okay, that's good to go. You've got a spring right here. Probably really hard to see, but there's a spring right there. I'm going to take some rust prevent and just spray a little on the spring right there. Make sure that's well coated. Also, you've got a little detent right here. And I like to just take one little small drop of the CLP and put it on there. Work that detent with your thumb a little bit. Kind of stiff, but you want to make sure it's well coated, so there's that. Then we'll slide this barrel assembly back on. We'll lock your bolt back. Make sure you're flush right here on the fore end of the barrel. Make sure you're nice and flush there, which we are. Then I'm going to spin this back on here. There we go. Now, I'm going to, because I do have a lot of oil from my hands all over this gun, which is fine, but I am going to take a paper towel and just a fresh paper towel and wipe it down. So for cleaning out the choke, I'm just going to brush it a few times. I mopped it once with the mop, then I'll just brush it a few times and pull the mop back through it. Now, especially on an Anaconda choke, because they've got the gas over constriction, they've got the spiral grooves cut in here. You want to make sure that those spiral grooves are nice and clean, which this is. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the CLP, rub that on there, just a nice coating. What I really like to do is I take some anti-seize, or anti-sneeze as we call it in the automotive industry, and I put just a dab, not a lot, just a little dab. It makes a world of difference from a stuck choke to a not stuck choke. When I just swipe that little tiny dab around there just a little bit, wipe off the rest, and if anybody's ever worked with anti-seize, if you get a little bit on your finger, it'll get everywhere. So wipe that off real good, and then we'll put this in the barrel. So in goes the chokes, all nice and clean, dried out. Take your choke tool, snug that up a little bit. Then all we got to do is put our sling back on. Okay, put the sling back on, and that's it. Always, obviously, function test, you know, make sure that everything's good to go there, which it is. So I'm ready to go back out again. This good cleaning will last me probably the rest of the hunting season. I'll still pull like one of the ripcords through it just to keep the bore clean. I may put a little bit of rust prevent on there, pull that through too, just to make sure. But this Benelli M2, this will be my third duck season with this gun now. It's never, ever, not once let me down because of a malfunction, because of dirty guns or anything like that. I've had some bad ammo, but never because of the shotgun. So get yourself some good shooter's choice and some Otis. These little kits are great for the field. And that's it. So I hope it helped you out if you're wanting to know how to really do a deep clean on a semi-automatic inertia-driven shotgun. Maybe I'll do a video on, my wife actually shoots the Remington 1187, so maybe I'll do a video on that too, about how that comes apart and goes back together. And you know, if you're shooting like a CZ1012, Super Black Eagle, they're almost identical to the M2. So in fact, I got a CZ1012 sitting right here for my kids. So anyways, well, probably a longer video than what you're used to, but I hope it helped. So we'll see you next time.